You expect me to talk?
No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
Written by Richard Maybaum and Michael G. Wilson, once again directed by John Glenn. Let's talk about 1989's License to Kill. This is, in my opinion, the most underrated film in the series, period. It was clearly ahead of its time. I think mainstream crowds weren't ready for a darker, more violent tone. It's a darker film. Bond's motivation is a more personal motivation this time. He's not on a regular mission. And it was in some sense foreshadowing the Daniel Craig era, films like Quantum of Solace, for example. But I will talk about that later. What I want to talk about first is the premise of the film, which is an interesting one. Michael G. Wilson was always talking about Kurosawa's Yojimbo, which was the main inspiration for the plot of License to Kill. It's a story about a samurai who manages to take his enemies down by turning them against each other. You know, without doing any fighting at all, he manages to manipulate them. He manages to, only by spreading the seeds of distrust, you know, he manages to get them down. And that's exactly what happens in License to Kill, and I think it's very interesting. As I said, it's a more personal mission for Bond. He's not on a regular mission. And it was a bold move at the time. You know, Bond being on a more personal mission, it's a common theme these days. They did it a lot with the Craig era, maybe too much. But back in the day, it was something new, it was refreshing, it was something special, it was a bold move. And I think they made a great choice. I think it's a brilliant choice. Think about the fact that Bond was once married and lost his wife. His wife got killed. Now he sees Felix's wife, his friend's wife, getting killed. And I'm assuming that brings back a lot of painful memories for the character. And that's what drives him to get the villains down. He's on a revenge mission. And, you know, by getting those memories triggered and, you know, watching a friend of his getting killed, getting hurt, those are great motivations to go on that mission, to take those people down. He turns against M, he turns against the MI6. I think it's as I said, bold but brilliant choice, and it works very well. Timothy Dalton was the right guy to do it. I think he got the acting skills to do such things, and he really shows off those skills in this film. He shines in this film. His portrayal of Bond is like no other. And I think he was the perfect choice for the film, and the story was the perfect choice for an actor like him. So it's an interesting premise, you know. Turning his enemies against each other, the destruction from within, so to speak. It's very new and very, very suspenseful, in my opinion. Yes, it's a very violent film. Some complained about this, but I think it's not violence for the violence sake. I think the violence was necessary to, you know, show us the high stakes of the story. Anything could happen. Anyone could die. You know, we almost think Felix could have died in this film. So I think the violence is necessary to add higher stakes to the story, to the mission. And what makes this so suspenseful? It's not only the motivation, the violence. It's also the chemistry between Bond and the villain, Sanchez. He's one of the most interesting villains in the series, one of my favorites. And I think the relationship between those main characters, between Bond and Sanchez, it's just as great as, let's say, the relationship between Bond and Goldfinger. It's such an interesting cat and mouse game. You know, that's the main theme of the film. There's the enemy, and here's our hero, and he's trying to get him down by manipulating him, you know, almost acting as his friend, you know, working for him. acting like he's, looking up to him. And very interesting. It's such amazing energy and chemistry between those two. It's amazing dialogue. And Sanchez, our villain, played by Robert Davi, I think he's the darkest, most menacing, most evil, most frightening villain in the series. I remember watching this back in the day as a kid, and I was afraid of the guy. It's such an interesting character because on one hand, he's clearly a sociopath and a killer, stone cold killer. But at the same time, he's acting out of a moral code. And he got some sense of fairness, even. I don't know if it's the right word to describe it, but at some point, you even like the guy a little bit. At least I did. Yeah, he's a very frightening presence because killing people is a business for him. It's part of his business. And, Bond infiltrating his organization, trying to bring it down by manipulating this guy, pretending to work for him. That's such a suspenseful premise, because when you watch the film for the first time, you can't stop thinking about what this man will do to Bond when he finds out what's going on here. He almost fed one of his friends to the sharks. So, we all know what happened with his enemies in this film. So, when you watch this for the first time, when I watched this for the first time, I couldn't stop thinking about, oh my God, what is this guy doing to Bond if he finds out that he's manipulating him? Very suspenseful. I love this. And the chemistry, as I said, between those two is highly energetic and very, very interesting. So this is what drives the film for me. And it's also the portrayal of Robert Davi. He's, I don't know, I don't like him in any other film, but I love him in this one. So that's all great. And as I said, Dalton is the perfect Bond. There's Carrie Lowell playing Pam Bouvier in this film. She's the main Bond girl, and I like her a lot. I think she should have had a little more screen time. But it wasn't necessary because her character wasn't that important to the story. As I said, the film is driven by the two main characters and the chemistry between those two. But I would have loved to see her a little longer in the film, because I think she's one of the most charismatic, most interesting, and my personal opinion, one of the most beautiful women in this series. I really like her. I, as I said, would have loved to see her a little longer. I can't say a lot about her character specifically because it's not that fleshed out. It's not that it's not that complex. But it's just her charisma and her presence and the way she talks and she looks. I think she's a perfect fit for Dalton. She's a very tough woman and it's very interesting. Lupe can't say a lot about her. She looks like a classic Bond girl, but other than that, can't say much about her. We got Felix once again, portrayed by, what's the actor's name? It escaped me. I have a list of things here. What is the actor? I don't know. Maybe tell me in the comments. I forgot the name. He was also in Live and Let Die. I think it's besides Jeffrey Wright, he was the only guy who played the character more than one time. So it's nice to have him back, for fans of the series. There's Benicio del Toro playing the henchman, and he's also, just like Sanchez himself, a very menacing presence. He's a slimy guy, and you get uncomfortable watching him. He makes me feel uncomfortable, and what he's doing with his face expressions and his eyes looks very evil and very menacing. So I love that. You got your usual Q stuff, and Moneypenny is worried about Bond, and that's lovely. And it's Q on a vacation, so There's a little light-hearted moment in the film. Yeah, some say it's misplaced. I don't think so. I think it was nice to see him and to have, yeah, some more light-hearted moments to balance it all out. Michael Kamen did the music for this film, and I think he did some beautiful scores here. There's especially one theme that I love. It's called just Pam. It's the Pam theme, and there's a section where it gets very melancholic, beautiful, mellow. There's some harps playing, and I think it's one of the most beautiful themes in the whole series. I can't stop listening to it. Look it up on Spotify or YouTube, and please give it another try. I know a lot of people complain about the score as being too Lethal Weapon or whatever. I get that, but I think it's underrated. I think he did some beautiful work, and especially this theme and its mellow sections. I highly recommend it. It's beautifully orchestrated. Great work. One of my favorite musical scores in the whole series. Not the whole thing, but especially this section of the score. The main complaint about this film that I heard from fans is that it looked too much of a 1980s action film, some regular 1980s, that it looked like Little Weapon or Miami Vice or something like that. Because there was a limited budget for the film, so they had to shoot a lot in Mexico. It's not shot in the UK, I think. I think it's not even done at the Pinewood Studios, if I'm correct. Maybe, again, tell me in the comments, I'm not sure about that, but I think it was only done in Mexico. And yeah, the main complaint is that it looks cheap, it looks like some 80s TV show or something. And I disagree wholeheartedly. I disagree. I think it's way too glamorous to be one of those regular 80s films or TV shows. I think it looks stunning like all the other films. Take Sanchez's villa, for example. Set designer Peter Lamont once said he wanted it to look like a blank sheet of paper, like a white sheet of paper. And it looks beautiful, it looks stunning, it's such a glamorous set piece. And I love the casino scenes and many others. Maybe people think about it as some Miami Vice kind of stuff because of, the whole drug cartel thing and those crimes going on. It was a common theme back in the 80s in a lot of TV shows. Maybe that's where the comparison comes from. But I don't think that it looks any less glamorous than the other films. So yeah, I have to disagree with that. I think it's a beautiful looking film. Can't say anything against it. So the action. John Glenn once again directed this film, and he was always the man for, I think, down-to-earth looking action scenes. And what he accomplished with the whole fire trucks in the end, and the main confrontation between Sanchez and Bond. It's done very well. As I said, the violence is pretty realistic looking. It's a very down-to-earth look. And it contributes to the film, I think. It looks amazing. And the whole fire truck action and with the plane done very well, looks stunning, looks really dangerous, and you can almost feel the heat, when the whole thing's exploding and fire is everywhere. Watching this, I can feel the fire, I can feel the heat. It looks so realistic, and because what you see is what you get. They really blew those things to smithereens. So very well done. The whole plane scene in the pre-title sequence. That also looks. It's kind of silly, but at the same time, it looks very realistic. And I think that's something that I like about John Glenn's direction. There's a little sense of humor in there. Most of the people don't like this. I think it's okay. It's not overdone. It's not too much. And he toned down the humor for this film a lot. But it looks a little silly sometimes. But it's realistic. It looks realistically enough to be real. I don't know if I might be able to explain it the right way. But I like this combination. I love John Glenn's direction. I love his style. I love, as I once said, his movies are among my favorites. The title track is fine. I mean, it's one of my personal favorites, but I get the criticism. The movie was ahead of its time, but the title track wasn't. It felt like a little bit. It felt like it was from 1984 or something. It was a strange choice, I think, Gladys Knight at the time. There were so many other great acts they could have chosen, so I'm a little surprised they made that decision to use Gladys Knight. Yeah, I think, it's a really great song, and I love some modern takes on it. Now, I love when other artists perform it. At the Royal Albert Hall, they had this thing a few years ago. I forgot the artist's name, but someone performed it, and it was my favorite music of the whole evening. Yeah, I think it's that great, but I get the criticism. As I said, movie was ahead of its time, and the track wasn't. Yeah, anything else I can say about this film? I don't think so. I think it has an interesting premise. It has a very suspenseful story, revenge story, and high stakes story. Dalton, at his best, really shines in this film. And yeah, by working for Sanchez, that's a very Fleming-esque thing to do, because that was a common theme in the books. Maybe I wanted to mention this because take the novel Goldfinger, for example. He's doing the same thing. He works for the villain and to somehow manipulate him. So it's very Fleming to do this. Yeah, I think it's one of the most interesting stories, one of the best portrayals of Bond. I like the action. I like the chemistry between the hero and the villain. Yeah, so that's it. I think it's the most underrated film in the series. Hopefully I convinced some of you to give it another try, maybe rewatch it. Yeah, maybe you like it a little more this time, because I don't know a single person who likes the film in my personal circles. Everyone is very harsh on that movie. Yeah, underrated. Love you, love the Bond community, and see you very soon.